Histotripsy changed my life for the better because it's given me the knowing of more life, if that makes sense to you. I know that every time I see my grandchildren, of which I've got 4, I see my son, I see my daughter. If I'd not followed the histotripsy and Kane trial, where would I be?
One day, a pediatric cardiologist named Ahi came to the lab, and he was taking care of pediatric patients with congenital heart disease, and he needed to go in and actually surgically remove tissue to perform that surgery. And he asked us a question. He said, can you invent a non-invasive technology that can perform the real surgery? And I thought that was so cool, such a cool idea, and I embraced it right away. And I started my experiments. And I remember that moment. I saw this pig heart tissue in the water tank with ultrasound transducer placed 10 centimeters away, right? So it's long distance. And within a minute, there was a hole through the pig heart tissue. This is something really special. I think we got something, a big discovery. So that was the first time histotripsy was discovered, the phenomenon.
Histotripsy has a fundamentally different mechanism of action from pretty much all other tumor therapies that I can think of. And so what histotripsy does is it generates massive focal fluctuations in pressure that essentially just tear cells apart. And so it's a purely mechanical way of literally tearing cells apart. And it does it with pressure fluctuations that don't involve the use of heat. It really allows you to target your tumor with millimeter levels of precision. And that's something that thermal ablation, surgical resection, radiation therapy really, at least in the current state, are unable to do. All those other therapies, they really sort of kill cancer cells by applying some sort of toxicity, some sort of cell-damaging insult in a way that indirectly leads to the eventual death of the cancer cells. With histotripsy, it's different.
Well, histotripsy uses ultrasound and bubbles. And those bubbles, they are micro bubbles that you don't really see because they're small, but they can be used to destroy any target disease tissue without actually opening the patient up, without any bleeding, without any incision. And that's the power of the bubbles.
HistoSonics was formed at the very end of 2009 and created with the mission of commercializing histotripsy over a significant number of clinical applications. The company has spent roughly the last 14 years taking what the University of Michigan created, developing a product through a quality management system so that it ultimately can get the regulatory clearances. So what we've developed in the company, the Edison platform itself, is incredibly breakthrough and novel. Just about everything about it is breakthrough, from the configuration and how adaptable it is into any procedural environment, to how agnostic it is to physician specialty. So it was a feat to create a platform that you could use to deliver histotripsy completely non-invasively, safely and effectively into the body, into a targeted tumor. We chose the liver to begin based on the significant unmet clinical need. The Hope for Liver trials were fairly straightforward clinical trials that we designed with the help of the FDA to prove safety and effectiveness, treating patients who had failed or exhausted their other options or were intolerant to other options. There are not a lot of alternatives, and histotripsy provides a new option, a new hope for those patients. So the pivotal sort of seminal milestone for the company, for any healthcare company, is a regulatory clearance, which we achieved in October. It was a glorious Friday, October 6th of 2023, which afforded us the opportunity then to begin commercializing the science of histotripsy and the Edison platform, and had our first system purchased the same day.
There were a lot of trials done both in Europe and the United States to prove that this device was effective and safe. And now we're using this on patients in clinical practice, and the numbers are growing quite rapidly of the number of patients that we're treating. So I think HistoSonics and histotripsy has opened up a lot of treatments to patients who didn't have any other options. So, a lot of patients come to mind. There's a patient who had a tumor that was in the right liver. It was actually surgically removed, and now it's recurred in the left liver. And there's maybe 20 tumors. And so over the course of multiple treatments, we've actually shrunken probably about, I think, 12 tumors now. A lot of things we do go through the artery. That'd probably be too dangerous for this patient because they already have half their liver removed. They can't have surgery because they've already had half their liver removed. And where these tumors actually are, they're really in the center of the liver, which is kind of a more dangerous area to treat. So you definitely don't want to put needles in there. And so this patient has actually had great success with HistoSonics. We've been able to improve her quality of life.
Soon after the trial for liver completed, we have the opportunity to lead the global first trial in kidney cancer treatment, so known as the CANE trial. And one of the challenges that for me were trying to understand from patients' perspective, because fundamentally this is quite early phase trial. And actually it's very interesting. All the patients we approach really, really keen to take part. It's very illuminating even for me as a doctor and as the chief investigator for the trial to actually feel inspired by how willing our patients are to want to contribute towards research.
I went to Seacroft Hospital in Leeds for what was to be a scan for a hernia, and then I got a letter from a Dr. Wong who told me that because they'd scanned quite high up, believe it or not, they'd found what they believed was a tumour on the right kidney and what could be two possible tumours on the left kidney. So I was offered three treatments, which was internally going to cut things out, freezing or using the histotripsy trial, and didn't take long to quickly decide, in fact it was minutes, that that's the direction I was going to go. Wanted to support medical science. Just for me, it fitted. It was fantastic. It was an absolute dream. There was no worry. It was just, for me, a perfect procedure that's very little pain.
I was quite ill. My consultant at Bradford Royal Infirmary, he basically said, you've got 3 tumours. They came for me on Thursday afternoon. Obviously I was asleep, the procedure happened. Next thing I remember, I woke up on the ward, back in the bed, and apparently it took 6 minutes. No pain, no intrusion into my body, no nothing, no cuts, nothing. I just felt like I'd had the sleep, a good sleep, that was it. It still hasn't hit me what a miracle it is. And I think that is the word, a miracle. And if it weren't for people like them, people like me won't benefit from it.
I think that there are studies, that came out that proved it was effective, and now we have our own, anecdotal clinical evidence that we are being very effective at controlling tumors, especially with pretty minimal side effects. And so I think that's a great success story on how HistoSonics can impact a patient when no other therapy could.
I never thought one day we could actually use the bubble cloud to treat. We are venturing into an era that we never thought it would ever come, but it is here. And I think the future is exciting. This is literally the tip of the iceberg. I think that the next 20 years, there'll be many more research. We can actually translate this technology throughout various parts of the bodies. And in time, this technology is likely to replace what we call standard treatment today.
If I can turn the clock back, I went to see first-time Professor Wah, and I sat in this room, and there's everybody there that's got some tubes, feeding tubes, some with no hair, some with scarves. And these tables in front of you have got tea and coffee, and they've got biscuits, and they've got hero chocolates and whatever. And I said to my wife, Angela, I said, I've got to do something around this. I've just raised £1,050 that will go to the Bexley wing, and if it buys teas, coffees, and makes that room as comfortable as I found it, that's been part of Professor Wa's team. I wasn't a patient. I felt I was part of her team. Family, yeah. Histotripsy changed my life for the better because it's given me the knowing of more life.